What's going on, everybody? My name's Eric. Oh, I forgot the music. What's going on, everybody? My name's Eric with Alamo City Agenda. We're here with currently sitting councilman Jalen McKee-Rodriguez. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you so much for having me.
How was your weekend, first of all?
This weekend, what did I do? It's been very busy. Obviously, we're in the middle of campaign season, so we've been knocking on doors. We've had a couple candidate forums and gotten a couple endorsements along the way. So it's been a good weekend.
So how is that from last time when you ran to this time? What does that feel like right now? Like, what's the environment?
You know, I've been reflecting on that quite a bit. I think last time around, I was a 25-year-old high school math teacher working full time, and then I was also a grad student. And I was at the doors introducing myself to people, asking them to place trust in me among a crowded field of 12 at the time.
Yeah.
This time around, you know, we've put in so much investment and outreach the past year and a half that whenever I'm knocking on doors, people already know who I am. When my team is block walking and they have the Jalen shirts on, people know that they're with me. And so it's been such a huge, it's been a complete 180 from last cycle.
Yeah. Because you brought a lot of heat last year, or not last year, but 2 years ago.
And we haven't let up. I believe very much in intimidation through hard work. If you're walking through the neighborhoods and you're having a hard time talking to doors because we've already been there, I enjoy that.
Okay. Yeah. And what about going to places like houses that have an opponent sign? What's your...
I haven't faced that yet.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I haven't seen anybody else's signs in the field at all.
Nice. That's a good thing.
I would approach the door and I would, you know, have a real conversation. What's been your experience with my office? How's it going? What's going on?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on, like, what is the vibe you're getting from the citizens already that have seen you, and maybe are still not confident on who you say you are, or in the job that you're doing? What do you say to the people that are feeling like that?
That's a really good question. I think that the point that I would make is that I feel very confident that I can stand on a record and say the things that I said I wanted to do going into my term. I've laid the groundwork for that. I've laid the groundwork for equitable infrastructure investment with our new infrastructure funding formula. Police accountability was very big last cycle, and that's been something that I've been very consistent on. In terms of investment in the district, we have the most bond funding that we've ever gotten before. I've been very active and present. We've done outreach to over 10,000 households just by our newsletter every month. That's something that no other council office can replicate. And so I think the message I would like to leave with folk is that District 2 has been without consistent representation for about 10 years, since 2013. And when I'm at council session, you have to understand that I'm not... District 2 has always been a lone voice in some senses. And we've been a weaker voice because we don't get to chair committees. A lot of our policy ideas don't get followed through if we're not there anymore. And then when you're asking lobbyists, developers, the City Hall insiders, and the folks who have been exploiting our community for decades to change their behavior, why are they going to listen to me if they feel like they can just wait me out? And so this is an opportunity for us to turn that revolving door, I've been saying this quite a bit, turn that revolving door into a permanent seat at the table.
That's a difficult one, because it's you guys don't get that much time.
2 years is nothing, and it hasn't even been 2 years.
Yeah. And you're already you're at the campaign trail. So it's just been a struggle. Like I've seen you do what you need to do. And you've gone in oppositions of the other city council sometimes, and you know, but
we have our fun moments.
Yeah, you do, you know. But at the end of the day, you can see that you're at least genuine, and you're trying to shake it up a bit.
Thank you, and I'll add to that as well. Like, even when there are disputes, I have amazing relationships with my colleagues. Like, I have hours long conversation with multiple of them, and we just talk about our day. We talk about our personal lives. We have such really good relationships that I don't think was, and the things that we're doing, like those kind of calls, like those kind of phone calls and monthly meetings, that wasn't happening prior with other council members. And so the relationships that I have now are super strong, and it enables me to, whenever I'm on the dais and I'm gonna make a comment about the direction that we're going, and I'm saying that this isn't who we are as a city or as a council, they listen to me. They do, even if we're gonna disagree and we're gonna act, separately. There's an understanding that I'm not pointing blame at anybody. I'm not making any inflammatory comments. We have that understanding. So I've been able to bring conversations to the table that wouldn't have been had otherwise, and that maybe wouldn't have been appropriate for folk who don't have a positive relationship in that way.
How do you balance the keeping it real, like just speaking your mind and getting the filter too as well?
I think there's a level of political calculus to everything you do. I understand when I'm on the dais or when I'm in an interview, the things that I say are going to impact thousands of people, whether it's, sharing information with them for the first time, or it's saying something about the outcome of an event or my account of what happened. And I also, on the other side of the effects of that, is I have to work with 10 other people, and they have to know that I'm gonna work with them in good faith. And so I know that anything I say can have an effect on my ability to work with them, thus on my ability to provide results for my constituents. So when I'm making comments or when I'm saying what I need to say, which is what my district wants. My district wants an active voice. If we had a council person who was just idly sitting by, showing up to work every day, just sitting there not making any comments, that's not of benefit to us when we're at the less favorable end of the stick.
Yeah, for sure. What do you feel? Why do you think this district is the less favorable?
I'll be 100% honest with you. Most of our citywide flaws stem from poverty and stem from the systemic inequities and inequalities that have been permeated for quite some time now, which go all the way back to racism at the end of the day. When you had redlining and when you had folk saying that only black folk could live on this side of town, only white folk could live on this side of town, that is the foundation of our city. And beyond that, we've become known as one of the most economically segregated cities in the country. And that's rooted in racial segregation. And so when investments were made on the north side and they got their beautiful big lots and their infrastructure was done well, everyone else was, without, east, west, and south side. And so now that we're decades later, past, we're at a point where we've acknowledged it. Only in 2017 did we start implementing an equity lens, meaning that every district prior to that was receiving the same amount of funding. But when you have districts like 8, 9, and 10 that start off so far ahead, and you give everybody the same amount, the people on the east, west, and south are never going to catch up. And so in 2017, they made it so that District 2, District 5, District 7, different parts of town got a little bit more of that funding. But as a part of I told you I was a high school math teacher. As a part of the bond process, I was using failed streets as a sample size and saying, where are we going to be at if we continue with this level of funding? And District 2, if we had continued where we were going, would have had a greater share of failing streets than any other part of the district, and a greater share than what we have now. And so I asked for the city to, one, set a new goal so that all districts could be within an equitable amount. So within like maybe 4%, say it's a score of 0 to 100, and everybody right now is at about 70 to 80. Right now, I want to say that District 9 is at 82, District 2 is on the lowest at 70. By 2030, we should all be within only a few points of one another, and we should all be at that 80 range. And so we have that commitment from the city. We have the new equity formula, which is going to be based solely on condition of road. So District 2 is going to be receiving millions of dollars more per year.
Is that going to be included with like street lights and like lighting?
So there's different types of funding. So when we do a failing street, which is brand new reconstruction, sometimes they put in things that are needed like drainage. Sometimes they'll put sidewalks in where they're needed, and then often not sidewalks. I mean, not sidewalks. Often not street lights with that, unless there's already street lights there. that's a whole other issue, which I also am super happy. That was one of my first budget amendments that made it in, was a street lighting index before election. And I talked about this on the campaign trail. The city could not tell you where streetlights were, which ones were out, where streetlights were needed. And that's a huge problem to me, that you can't master plan that. You can't be proactive if you don't know what you're looking for. And so I advocated for a street lighting index, which was complete. It identified every street light in the city, as well as every gap according to our UDC code.
You know what? I actually did see that recently. And I was like, it was a bar street. And I was like, hey, this looks familiar. But yeah, I saw it was like, okay, these are the lights that we have that are new. These are the ones that need to be replaced. We're going to add some street lights here. So that's good. Granted, I wonder if it's being done. Like, I haven't seen anything that's being done on like the south side or east side, but it's out there, right?
Yes.
Where can you find that?
So there's I wish I had the URL, but we're going to be getting a briefing on it fairly soon at Public Safety.
Okay.
And so I'm asking for updates. We also allocated about $5.3 million over the course of 2 years, which should be expiring fairly soon. And I don't think I've seen that level of investment. So I have to check to see where that's at. And I need to check to see where that's at. Because I think where we're finding the biggest struggle is in easement acquisition. A lot of the times it's, I really want a street light, but there's four folk in a neighborhood at a specific location who have to agree where the light is going to go. Who's going to give access to that easement to the city to put that street light there. And so many people think that means that they have to pay, or that they're losing a part of their property, or they just don't want it right there. It's a huge struggle.
Trying to please people, but no. Okay, sorry, I'm getting back to the comments, guys. Anthony says, good morning, Jalen and Eric. Good morning. Rose says, good morning from Big Mama Safe House.
Good morning, Rose. Tell Benny I said hi.
JR says, thanks, Jalen, for being one of the only two city council for voting against the use of eminent domain to take Vince Cantu's bar so that we can expand the Alamo and get a 4D theater and gift shop that no one asked for.
That was a horrible moment, I think. I think that was a horrible moment for council. And I think people were looking to us to give that little bit of time. Because you can say that the bar owner wasn't willing to work with folk behind the scenes. Like that's what the message that was being shared, right? Mm-hmm. Is, he's been unwilling thus far. But when he comes to council session and says, give me 2 weeks, that's public information. It's not behind the scenes. He's made that. There's a level of accountability there that exists. Right. I wish we had given that. I wish we had given that. I don't think we needed to rush. And I feel like sometimes we act so swiftly.
Well, and this whole Alamo thing has been stupid to begin with. I'll just be honest. And this has been a problem and waste of taxpayer money, in my opinion. But either way, yeah, it's unfortunate. And another thing, do you agree that they should even be bringing up the protest of property taxes of somebody's business into this situation? So the news posted, oh, well, according to his protests of property taxes, he only valued his property at $500,000. And I'm like, well, why is it even brought into question? Like, that's something that should be.
Also, when you're doing your taxes, you got to play the game. I'm going to make sure that my property is valued at the lowest amount possible, so I got to pay as little taxes as possible. If I'm trying to sell my house, I obviously want it to be valued at more, and so that's grimy. I agree.
And I'm like, that's frustrated me because I'm like, that shouldn't even be brought into question. Anthony says, we need a special counsel type investigation into police misconduct in San Antonio. They need to have the power to criminally charge officers. Why is city council failing to act on police misconduct? Nothing is being done. Police act with impunity. They need massive amounts of retraining. have any comments on that?
I'm not going to disagree with the spirit of that. I'm not going to disagree with the spirit of that. And, actually, yesterday I was at the Stonewall Democrats Forum, and one of the members asked a question of one of my colleagues and was like, why are you opposed to the Justice Charter? And you say that it's going to be preempted by state law or that it's going to open us up to lawsuits. Do you know how many millions of dollars we've spent in settlements alone for officer misconduct and officer involvement? Like, all of that. And so when we're going to make a moral stance, I think we need to do it, and we need to acknowledge that we waste so much taxpayer dollars defending unjustifiable actions by officers.
Yeah, that's now let me ask you a question that was brought up previously. Some people don't see this misconduct because it's not happening to them, or it's not, do you feel like it's that big of an issue to really be focused on? And I asked that because some people have said otherwise. So
I'd say yes, and I think it. We get calls quite a bit that there's a few things happening. You have a district like District 2 that is simultaneously over-policed and under-policed at the same time. Over-policed in the sense that, I had a call where a mom called me and said, hey, my son and his friend were in the car driving, and they were pulled over because they were going too slow. And they were it just went a little bit too far for her, and what the crime was versus what the way that the officer treated these two young black boys. On the other end, you see, and that's for a crime like driving too slow. Then you see people who are calling the police saying, hey, there's a shooting happening right now, or this is happening, or there's this, and it takes hours for officers to show up. But they see officers parked behind a Walmart for however long. They're parked chatting, like kikiing with one another, two officer cars at a restaurant. It's you put all of these things together and it doesn't sit right with the community. And so there's the very egregious actions of police misconduct that need to be addressed, and it is very much an issue. And then there's the smaller things that happen that it's harder to pinpoint as
it's like fraud, like waste. It's like a waste, like fraud, waste, and abuse. It's a waste of company, or not even company. Well, it feels like a company, but it's a waste of tax money, like because they're not doing what they need.
That's the same critique I have a little bit of our hotspot initiative. I mean, there's few things that I want to say about it. Right, it's the one where the officers are going to be parked in the neighborhood for 15 minutes with their lights on. And then phase 2 and phase 3 is the structural and infrastructure investment and community programming kind of investment. And for me, it's if you already know that there is a problem area, you know what the cause of it is, just skip to phase 2 and 3, make the investment. The investment. People do not want to see a cop car parked for 15 minutes like a lame duck. Yeah. That feels like a waste of resources as well. And we got quite a bit of that at our public safety meeting.
Oh man, definitely. That when you brought up the driving slow kind of thing, that happened to me when I was putting up campaign signs in 2020. I got pulled over for not using my blinker. And I'm like, I used my blinker, but you had your brights on. I only moved because you had your brights on, kind of thing. And the only reason why I think they let me go is because I was running for justice of the peace. And I'm like, I don't want to, Yeah. But I'm like, had I not, I probably would have gotten a ticket.
That's horrible.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
horrible.
Now, granted, I don't know if that at the end of the day, but kind of like what I told the other candidate is like, it's a little bit different when you're Hispanic or black or different person of color. Like, I don't know, it's just something different about how we get treated sometimes, and it's just we don't know, and it's unfortunate.
And there's this, you either have this or you don't. But when you're behind the wheel of a car and you see an officer behind you or you see lights, there's a fear that's indescribable. And it's, that even though you may not be doing something wrong, you may not be doing something worth, being handcuffed or being brutalized, you don't know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And for as long as that fear exists, we need a shakeup of the system.
Gotcha. Rose says we need an office of violence prevention.
That's Rose Williams?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's actually been one of my, so as well, in my first budget session, I'll say it again, I was a high school math teacher. I love the budget. A lot of times, elected officials completely underestimate a budget's opportunity for political wins. And so that's when I'm talking about the street lighting index, I'm talking about we got what's it called? A civil rights coordinator. We got the infrastructure funding formula change. These are huge things that are going to be felt for decades. And one of the big things that I've been pushing for since day one was an Office of Crime and Recidivism Prevention that would work with city departments to pretty much, we know what the root cause of crime, but to work in similar, we're kind of getting there with this hotspot thing, right? Is that whenever you're looking at a very specific area of town, you need to know what is the root cause of crime in that area, in that neighborhood, on that street corner, whatever it is, and work with each city department through a lens of crime prevention. So right now, maybe the arts department or the public works department isn't thinking, how can we as a department prevent crime? But they should be. And they should have some sort of guidance from an office. As a part of this budget cycle, I got a coordinator for that. So a crime and prevention coordinator who is going to be working with the city departments. And I'm so excited about that. I think it's going to be super critical as we implement this hotspotting initiative so that we can make those investments as quickly as possible and in the smartest way as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. Rose says Office of Crime Prevention, but I think that's what he said. And then more investment in our community for D2. That's what she said. So, yes.
Tell the mayor, run me my money. I'm kidding. It's got to be 6 of us.
6. What's your favorite small business in D2?
Ooh.
You can have a couple. That's fine.
Ooh, I'm not. Okay.
Don't tell me you're going to say you're not allowed.
No, I'm very much allowed. Where would I? So I always say I love. I'm an artist at heart. I love art so much. I love going to the Eye of the Beholder Gallery, which is right down the road. Okay. Have you been there yet?
No.
You have to go stop in and see. They actually came and installed art in my field office.
Okay.
So it's the only Black-owned art gallery and studio in San Antonio. They're fantastic. I love Maria Williams. She's my arts commissioner as well. Another small business I love. Man, I like walking. I like the feel of St. Paul Square. And I go to Toro's quite a bit. Toro.
Okay.
And then underneath that is Sub Rosa or Cellar Mixology. I don't know which name they're going by, but they have those spherification. The sphere, it's like... man, we're talking about alcohol on the interview. They have nitrogen drinks, which are frozen. They have the spherification, so like mojito balls.
Okay.
And that's really cool to me. I just like those niche things.
Yeah.
And then also I love Dakota Eastside Ice House. We have office hours there quite a bit. Love them. Tank's Pizza is awesome.
Somebody brought up that D2 does not have fine dining. Do you think that's needed here?
I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say I love our spots that we do have, right? And I don't want to take anything from them because I'll go to you can make anything a fine dining experience. You can get it. You can get that
a hot dog for $20.
I promise you.
It's called something else. But
I promise you can find some fine dining in District 2. But we do have a huge lack of amenities, and it's because historically folk have said, there's not the number of, we don't have the population with money, and so a lot of big corporations didn't want to make investment other than in warehouses in the district.
Yeah.
And so we don't have movie theaters other than the Galaxy, which is on the far northeast side of my district. We don't have really nice shopping centers that don't include a 99-cent store and a Melrose. We don't have
the Melrose.
we don't have things for our young people to do, and that was a huge reason that I wanted to run for office. And so one of my biggest struggles is that the District 2 office, and this has been a promise of candidates before, is like, I'm going to bring some fine dining experiences. I'm going to bring a movie theater. I'm going to do this. You don't control private investment.
Yeah.
We have an amount of influence, and there's some opportunities we have to incentivize and to support folk and to answer the questions of, why won't you invest here and what do we need to do that? but you can't make them.
Right. Right.
So we've had conversations with a movie company that I'm excited about. We're gonna have a follow-up fairly soon, and it was about almost where could a movie theater work in the district. We got that study done, and so we're going to be having follow-up conversations and seeing what's next. We've had conversations with a hospital entity because we don't have, and this is going to be an even bigger problem now that the one on the southwest side.
Yeah, the one
now that hospital closed down, there's going to be even more strain for our firefighters. Like we haven't yet thought about how that's going to have a public impact.
Yeah.
The East Side has been saying for the longest time, we don't have a hospital. What are we going to do? And now we're going to have to fight for resources with the Southwest Side as well. The whole South, East Side, we're all going to be trying to get the next hospital.
Yeah.
And when you leave impoverished districts like 2 and 4 fighting for resources with each other, like that's a failure.
Well, and what doesn't make sense is why wouldn't you put hospitals in these areas, especially the ones that do not have reliable access to electricity? Like if they're in a hospital grid, they wouldn't be shut down it would be very rare that they would be shut down. Not like with this whole still thing, but it's not the case.
I agree, and it's with the hospital situation, you're looking at like a it's not the city's purview. But we just had a conversation in Czech, and it's now that that's happened in 4 and it's affecting folk on the south and west side, it's going to be, I think we have an opportunity to leverage that as an opportunity for the city to assert ourselves at the table in making these decisions. So acknowledging that the city, we have tools at our disposal, and it has closures of hospitals or lack of access to healthcare impacts our public resources, the health of our community. I think we have an opportunity there, and so I'm looking forward to this next term working with some of my colleagues on that.
Okay. But we're worried about building the baseball field.
I'm certainly not, and I am certainly not. And I'll tell you this as well is, in District 6 is where the Nelson Wolff Stadium is, and District 2 has the AT&T Center, and there were promises on both ends.
And Alamo Dome, right? Or no?
We have the Alamo Dome. There was promises on the east side of the AT&T Center that we were going to get this huge economic boost. 20 years ago, I was like 8. When these promises were made, and folk are still holding me accountable to it. And so I think we're going to see, I hope we don't see something like that happen in 6.
Well, it's supposed to be downtown, isn't it? The baseball field? And
then what happens to the field that exists?
I know. Nothing. Yeah, that's man. That is frustrating. And they're going big. Like they got, what was it? Dave Robinson and Menudo kind of.
I'm like, you guys are really trying hard to
get this stuff, but
we love local ownership.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, and I mean, there's also the talk of the Spurs going to Austin, and
I know nothing of that. They haven't spoken to me.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing is, like, there's all these rumors and stuff like that, and a lot of propaganda in Austin for the Spurs. This is like, what's going on here? Like, are we going to lose the Spurs? But that's the thing is,
I'm cautiously optimistic and hopeful that we won't. Why would you leave your hometown?
Yeah. Well, but I'm like, why would the county say, well, you're gonna incur a fee if you move? You know what I mean? That's like kind of sketchy.
And we just made that huge investment in the
sports center,
the Human Performance Campus, on the northwest side.
Mm-hmm.
There was the request to build over the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone, and I remember I was the only person to vote no on that. And now we're seeing all these conversations happen. So foresight.
It's sketchy. Anthony says, "What are you most proud of accomplishing as a city council member?" Or accomplished, because you are a city council.
I'm going to list a few things, and I think I have an opportunity to do that. Yeah. So I'll say, number one, I think the change in our infrastructure funding formula, which was a result of my advocacy, is going to result in equity by 2030, it's going to result in all districts being fairly comparable in terms of infrastructure. And so I'm super excited about that, super proud of that. We had the Eastside Youth Content Creator Program, which was a partnership with Alamo City Studios, where students from Sam Houston got to go to Alamo City Studios and make films, short films with industry professional equipment. And they had a fantastic one-of-a-kind experience that other parts of it, for once, other parts of the city didn't get that.
Yeah.
It was for the East Side. And so that was fantastic. I'm so proud of that. Proud of our outreach and communication. It was a big, last cycle, you'll remember communication with constituents and outreach and accessibility was a very huge topic of concern. And we've done a newsletter that reaches 10,000 households every single month. It was super exciting. We've done 60,000 text messages. We've knocked on over 3,000 doors after I was elected just to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
And that has built a connection, I think, with folk who normally wouldn't be engaged in local government or with a council office in a way that I'm super proud of all three of those things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, my goal also is to, I would like to have some youth participate in these conversations too.
Oh, I have a few for you.
You have, yeah, that would be really cool because I never got introduced into politics or government, and then I never had, you know what I mean? And so, and the fact that they took government out of schools, like, doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like, it's
taught.
You tried to say it was straight face. You tried. Nah, but I mean,
Texas.
Let me see.
Don't take my certification away. Texas board.
For the CPS rate hike, are you going to be for or against it? I think the one that's going to happen next year.
Well, I voted no on the last one, and unless they're going to bring something to us that shifts the burden from our most marginalized to those who use it the most, which are commercial properties and the more well-off. If they're not doing that, then I'm voting no.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on disconnections?
I'm not a fan of disconnections, and I think it's a very inhumane thing to do because they're happening in places of town where there's already such financial insecurity, food insecurity, healthcare insecurity. There's all these societal flaws that are of no fault of their own. And during a time of financial strain, if you're unable to pay your bill, which you've had to make the choice between medications, insulin, food, resources, rent or your mortgage or utilities.
Yeah,
I don't like that we do that, and I actually push CPS every meeting we have. And where are we at on disconnections? Because they're happening disproportionately.
What do you think would be a solution? Because I mean, it is at the end of the day, it's still an entity, right? A business. I mean,
I know they want to. So I know they're big. They want to come into compliance. I know they don't want disconnections. They don't want to disconnect somebody, and so by the time that they've disconnected somebody, they feel as though they've made their outreach. They've done their due diligence, and so when we're talking about, I think what I'm talking about is some sort of a social program. Like, you don't. What do we do to make sure we don't have disconnections in our most vulnerable communities? Because you can have disconnections in the properties that are investment homes, the ones that are vacant. Do what you got to do, and they're doing that, and they're prioritizing those homes.
right.
But is there a way that we can provide extra support? And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer, but I do know that we should move into that direction. And as soon as we have an opportunity to say no more disconnections, I think we need to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because there's going to be people that they don't care sometimes. Like they're like, I don't care, but they get disconnected. Then they're like, well, it's a problem.
I don't know. During the hottest time of summer and the coldest times of winter, I want my electricity
on. Tell me what's on your Spotify playlist. Or it doesn't have to be Spotify. It could be whatever.
I don't have Spotify. I have Apple Music. And I'm really bad. I'll listen to one song on repeat for hours. I really love a lot of like 90s R&B. I love Usher. I love Beyonce, of course. Nicki Minaj is always number one on my playlist.
Of course. Tell people about that. What happened with that?
Also, I'm a Barb. I'm a big fan of Nicki Minaj. Love her down. Pink Fridays every Friday. And, I had wished her a happy birthday from the dais as like it was almost a joke. It kind of was, because there was a point where I feel like everybody was doing points of personal privilege where it's like hours of ceremonials and points of personal privilege where council members are just talking for 10 to 15 minutes. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do a point of personal privilege on Nicki Minaj's birthday. And people thought I was joking. They thought I was joking. And so I shouted her out. And then at my Christmas event, she had retweeted a video of me and said, I endorse Jalen, Barb, follow him, send him to the pink, White House. And she's responded. We've DM'd back and forth a couple times. So it's so cool.
That's awesome.
I don't pretend I'm best friends with Nicki Minaj, but it's the closest I think I'll ever get.
Hey, it's something. Go ahead and finish. You said.
Oh, okay, so Nicki Minaj. Silk Sonic. The Bruno Mars and Pac Anderson duo.
Okay.
I love Smoking Out the Window. I love that whole first album they did. I can't wait for their next one.
Do you mess with vinyl at all?
No.
Unfortunately
not. I haven't ever been.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
don't think I'm cool enough.
What's your go-to song? Like let's see, go-to song when you know you're going to have like a city council meeting. Is there a go-to song?
It's really whatever I have on repeat at that time. Right now, I really like it. It also depends. So it depends. There's a lot of chill sessions where nothing crazy is going to happen. There's other ones that's like the CPS rate increase or there's
let's do that.
And I love
because somebody said Tupac.
I love it's like Hove Lane by Nicki Minaj. It's HOV Lane, but it's Hove Lane. I like her very aggressive song.
Okay.
Transformer. But I really am a calmer kind of person. I like to listen to music that's peaceful. So I'm really an R&B person.
Okay, gotcha. Question: what was the whole thing with the ostrich on your medal?
So my first Fiesta medal has it's me riding an ostrich, and my favorite animal is the ostrich. Tim from the zoo, the CEO of the zoo, Tim Morrow, he gifted me an ostrich egg because I told him my favorite animal was an ostrich. So I really do love ostriches. I think they're beautiful, majestic. Everybody always thinks that's odd, but they are my favorite animal. And I want my Fiesta medals over the course of the next few years to be animal themed. And so the first one is an ostrich. Next year will be something special. So re-elect me so you see that.
That's awesome.
It's also I like to do things that are moderately outrageous, and everybody's gonna do the loteria cards.
Yeah.
They're gonna do the cutesy things that are the same color patterns. I have my red leopard print ribbon with me riding an ostrich in it. I like doing things absurd like that.
That's awesome. Did you have a question? Do you want? Oh, okay. Just what's your idea of self-care?
This past year and a half, I've gotten really into fitness. So I see a trainer 3 times a week, and then I run a lot. I run on my treadmill for hours, or walk. Run or walk. It depends on if I did leg day, I'm not running. But I think that's made me happier or more at peace, or I feel less anxious whenever I get to work out. Okay. And that I did not start off with any interest in working out. Like, it's not run, why? But it's actually helped me a lot, and I love art. I love listening to music, watching TV. I try to do things that are, because even when I was a teacher, you make so many decisions a day. You have so much. The outcomes of every decision you make are so heavy and taxing that I like when my mind can just be at ease and not have to think about anything. So I really love watching The Good Place, Modern Family, shows that are kind of silly. Parks and Rec. City Council is just like Parks and Rec.
Oh, jeez.
It's things like that. I love things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you've been outspoken with as far as the houseless population. What do you think the city needs to do to kind of get that in the right direction?
There's a few things. There's a few things that need to happen. We need to see. We know what the long-term solutions are. And that's the struggle, is that we have those long-term solutions, but when people want immediate relief, you need some of those short and mid-range solutions that I don't think we've been particularly good at the city level or at the county or state. So we're going to be making that investment in housing. Like, the permanent supportive housing is needed. We need more shelter options, because Haven for Hope only works for so many types of people. They do great with the population that they serve. At least those who feel like they are serving thousands of people who are having a positive experience. For all those who aren't, who maybe aren't able to just cut their substances, anything that their coping mechanisms, cold turkey, let go of any of their belongings, let go of their animals. They can't do that. It's not realistic to ask them. And so we need more low barrier shelters and no barrier shelters, ideally. We need the permanent supportive housing. We need to invest in preventing houselessness. So we get a number of calls from people who are about to be evicted, and they're worried. They don't know what to do. They're trying to get on a list. And they're just struggling to find a place to go.
Right.
And so we need. It's not rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing is something different, but we need a solution that. And I think this is an opportunity. I think we have an opportunity to work with folk who own those vacant houses, because there's a ton of them all throughout the city.
Right.
A ton of them in my district, where we can work with them and say, hey, if we identify a person within X amount of days, would you be willing to house them? And we provide some sort of financial support. I would like to see some sort of program like that, as well as with the wraparound services. I would like to see. I think we also need to look at the encampments themselves, because that's where we're getting the concerns. Is this encampment is a health and hygiene concern for me and my neighbors. The most compassionate folk will say, I don't want them to be taken away from police. I don't necessarily want an abatement, but something's got to be done about the hygiene. And so I'm wondering if maybe the city could contract with a professional cleaning service that specializes in encampments. Maybe there's opportunity for solid waste routine pickup, where we send a crew from the solid waste department to go clean up every so often. So it's not traumatic abatements, but just a consistent cleaning. And a lot of the times at the encampments there's not a place to put any trash, to put any debris. There's not a place to put any of it. And so I think there's a few things that we can look into for the hygiene of an encampment. And I know sometimes it can feel like, if you invest in a short-term solution like that it's almost admitting defeat. But we are nowhere near solving houselessness. Right. No city has done that. No city has eradicated it. So we have to do something long-term. We have to do something in the midterm, and we need to do something to make the encampments as safe as possible for everyone involved, especially the people who do live at them.
Yeah. Well, and I see people's concern, because you see with Skid Row and LA and all that stuff, and people don't want something like that's going to be prevalent here. Like, you look in Austin too, there's a lot of people around that might feel unsafe to be around, the environment, whatever. So how do you kind of balance those two, to kind of make people feel safe but not?
And that's a hard one, because we're nowhere near that, right? It's not like, and this is an idea that's been floated around, right? Is the idea of tent cities, where you say this is going to be a lot, or an area of land where you can set up a tent. We'll have services. No city's done that particularly well either, in making sure that it's safe for everyone and that it's meeting its purpose. But we do get people who say, hey, why can't we do something like that? And it's specifically what city leadership will tell you is that it's to avoid a situation like a Skid Row, or creating a super dangerous environment, and they're not necessarily comfortable in their ability to facilitate that properly. And I agree. If you're going to do something, do it well. If you don't think you can execute it, don't do a poor job at it, right?
Yeah.
But I think this is the area, I think, that or one of the areas I think that keeps me up. That I'm like, what is the solution? What is the puzzle piece of solutions? What is it going to take? And I think we've identified a few, but I'm always open to ideas.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many variables involved with those things. So. What other districts have exciting candidates that you are watching and could help move the city forward?
Ooh. In District 5, there is a fantastic candidate named Terry Castillo. Love her.
She's
That was the easy answer. I'm thinking, so what races am I watching right now? I'll say in the mayor's race, I think it's going to be Ron. I think hands down, he's got it. I think there's not going to be. I think this is going to be his easiest race yet. I think in District 1, I think it's still gonna. I think it's gonna be an interesting race. I'm not gonna make any comments on that. But I work well with Mario. He works well with me. My race, of course, I am an exciting candidate to watch. Throw your money behind me. District 3, I think it's going to be Phyllis easily. 4, I think it's going to be Adriana easily. 5, Terry Castillo. 6, Melissa. I'll tell you which candidates I'm scared of. Like, do not let them get elected. No, I actually won't do that. I won't do that. I will say, old girl in District 6, Rudolph. Horrified. I'm horrified.
All right. Not gonna say anything else. All right. Well, what about 10? Because 10 open seat.
It's hard when you have one person.
And 17.
And 10, when you have somebody who's investing a bunch of money and has the support of multiple of the previous council members, including the incumbent, it's really hard to imagine anyone's going to beat him. I've seen that Brian Martin has gotten some support from different progressive groups. We've got some very similar endorsements. And so always something to watch. I think Ezra and Gabriel, who ran last cycle, also endorsed him. So I think there's something to watch there. 7, I think right now, I think the 2 main contenders are Marina and Dan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if it's not Marina.
Okay. Very cool people. They were both very, very cool. We still need to do Sandra Grace and I forget what the other person, Jacob Chapa, I believe. But yeah, definitely. JR says Arena Rudolph is very bad for 6. Chris Baker is very good there. So those are not any of my. I'm not saying anything, anybody. So again, this is unbiased show. So
I'm still pulling for my girl.
And then so you already said eminent domain. You already spoke your piece about that. I think it scares me when people are still like okay with eminent domain, like whatever platform. Like you really have to take a look into those things, and you and Terry were the only ones who voted no against it, and people have to be concerned that. I get it if it's for something that's, like you said, life-saving or it's something that's really good for the public. But if it's like a project, it's concerning.
I think eminent domain, and this was the tone of the conversation at council session, right? Is that you should only use eminent domain as a tool for the public good, and it should pretty much be for a public health reason. So if you absolutely need to do a drainage project or something like that, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
If it's, an amenity or a luxury thing, I don't think so. I don't think tourism is a public health issue in that way.
Right, exactly. All right, awesome. So how can people get a hold of you? How can people donate, block, all that good stuff?
For sure. So my campaign email is Jalen, Jalen, @votejalen.com. website, votejalen.com. You can request a yard sign there. You can make contributions. You can send me a message as well. And then, of course, you can always reach out to my council office for any constituent concerns.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. And stay tuned. We have one more interview today. Thank you, Jalen. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. So, again, you guys can ask questions directly. You can reach out to him and ask questions as well. And yeah, so stay tuned. Keep watching the elections. Get informed. Protest your property taxes. And you'll have a great day. Thank you.